Thank you so much to our CPUT colleagues, Sandra, Mandy, and Tertia. And I'd also like to give a huge shout out to Prof. Madinga from UCT for putting this event together along with myself. Thank you to me too. Thank you so much for coming to support. I see a lot of UCT colleagues as well here. Thank you for coming through. Another little thing on housekeeping.
Okay, good morning everyone. It is so lovely to see familiar faces, and I will try to behave because my supervisor is here.
Colleagues, and certainly our esteemed industry professionals, it's really a pleasure and an honor to co-host with UCT, and to think that CPUT at the bottom of the hill could compete with UCT on top of the hill. But I think we've done well, and certainly the collaboration worked, and thank you very much, Professor Madinga. And just to tell you also that in this period, we've actually come to realize that we need to do something in the region. So there's exciting plans afoot, and we will certainly be in contact with those in the region if we think of marketing. Yeah. But that being said, it is certainly an honor, and we are certainly grateful that you have found the time in your very busy schedules. And I know that that is not an easy task, but I know also that you packed your bags because you knew that you were coming to the town. So, if you all permit me, I just want to extend our appreciation as a department to our Institutional Advancement Director.
I was prompted to establish AMAC after I met Professor Naum, who was the head of Department of Business Management at the Central University of Technology. He had visited
faces that I see around the table after more than 3 decades of being part of this wonderful discipline that we call marketing. It's absolutely lovely to have you here in Cape Town, from the east coast of our country to the north, to the south, to all parts, to all provinces. Welcome to Cape Town. I've had the privilege of being here for the last year.
Okay, we're gonna gather this side for the photo.
We would need a panel discussion, and we need both voices, the industry and academia, to be had, because this entire session is about bridging the gap between academia and the industry. So if we want to bridge the gap, both parties need to be part of the discussion. We have prepared students for the industry absorbing our students. And if there is a gap there, we both need to address it. So we have a really wonderful panel today, which is composed of industry experts, marketing professionals, and academics. We want to hear from industry personnel what is it that they want, and we want to hear from academics what is it that we are doing to ensure that our graduates are aligned with industry expectations. So we have about 5 panel members, and I will quickly read their bios. We will start with our academic panel members. We have Professor Marius Wade, who is an associate professor in the marketing department at the University of Johannesburg, with 25 years of academic experience and a PhD in marketing management, specializing with sales management. He served as the head of department from 2017 to 2023 and won the Vice Chancellor's Award in 2019 for developing an innovative mobile app to track sales management students' progress. Miriam specialized in work integrated learning, and sales education, currently leading an award-winning project that bridges theoretical classroom learning with real-world application. His research has resulted in multiple publications and a 2024 Best Paper Award at an international conference. Will you kindly show your hand? The second academic panel member we have is Dr. Peter Stenkamp, who is he considers himself academic. So he will tell us more about what that means, which is a practicing brand consultant and academic. He obtained his PhD from the University of Stellenbosch Business School, specializing in strategic brand management. His research focuses on strategic brand management, which has been published in major scientific journals, including the Journal of Brand Management and the Journal of Business to Business Marketing. He is also a multi-award winning lecturer who has been teaching in the Department of Marketing within the Faculty of Business and Management Sciences at CPUT for over 20 years. He is also a co-author of Service Brand Management, Building Service Brand Equity textbook, and a developer of Brand for Success processes. Will you kindly stand? Our last academic panel member is Lebogang Mutoto, who is a lecturer at the University of Cape Town. And I had to practice a lot in reading her bio. Some of the words I will not be able to pronounce, but please bear with me. Now, drawing on almost 15 years of experience in academia, Lebogang Mutoto currently serves as a lecturer and the course convener in the marketing section of the School of Management Studies at the University of Cape Town. As a learning architecture, she designs learning experience that bridge rigorous scholarship with hands-on practice, while enabling a strong commitment to inclusive education. She also consults with organizations as an idea doula. Did I got that right? Thank you. Helping them bring bold brand strategies and social media identities to life. In the classroom, she works like a curriculum alchemist. Got that right as well. Which means blending theory, local context, and global trends to create transformative, accessible learning practice. Driven to be a futurist, her current research focuses on mainstream indigenous foodways and culinary practices as part of the broader exploration of how marketing, culture, and sustainability interact. Lebogang is passionate about turning classroom into a touchpad where students develop curiosity, emotional intelligence, and a continuous learning mindset, enabling them to live not only work ready but future ready. And we also have our industry panel members. I will start with Dr. Buitumelo, well known as Tumi Sibopa, who is the head of brand at Spar Corporation. There was a comment made earlier on. I don't think that Prof knew. But then he will get his answer. Or Dr. Tumi will just indicate that the critic has been well received.
I've already communicated with the customer.
So Dr. Sibopa has a career spanning fast-moving consumer goods, e-commerce, and restaurant industry. She previously served as the head of brand at Superbalist, South Africa's leading online fashion retailer, and is currently group head of brands at Spar Corporation. In this role, she oversees a diverse portfolio that includes Spar Steak Ranches, Rokomama, Panarotis, and Husagre, among others. Her work has been recognized with Loris, AC, and Apex Awards, and she was recently named among the Mail and Guardian Top 200 Young South Africans. Dr. Sibomba holds a PhD in business science marketing from VETS, unfortunately. I'm joking. From VETS. Beyond her corporate career, she has lectured in marketing and remains deeply passionate about education. She actively collaborates with local universities, bringing together academic principles and practical brand experiences to inspire future marketers and contribute to advancing the marketing field. And our next industry panel members is Gillian Redford, who is a managing director at Ed Therapy. She had a really long bio, so I asked AI to summarize it for me. It was 4 pages. So this is the AI version. Redford is a seasoned leader in marketing, advertising, strategy, and executive education, whose career blends creativity, business acumen, and people development. After earning her Bachelor of Science honors degree in marketing, business science degree.
AI makes mistakes.
Let's blame AI. After she earned her business science degree from the University of Cape Town. Very important. She began her career in marketing consulting before moving into creative industry, where she held account management and strategic roles in leading agencies. She went on to become a shareholder and a group managing director of Hercules and later Lowbull, where she led high-profile campaigns for South Africa's blue-chip clients and oversaw operations across the African continent. In 2007, she founded Ed Therapy, a communication and management consultancy working globally with both marketers and agencies to enhance creativity, strategy, processes, and team alignment. The firm focuses on optimizing partnership and improving the quality of communication output for measurable return on investment, guided by her principle of better skills, better relationship, better results. Building on this foundation, she launched the Business Marketing Academy in 2016 to develop an in-house academies for marketers. And in 2021, she established the School of Thought, which is an online knowledge sharing and talent building platform for marketing and advertising community. Along her entrepreneurial ventures, Gillian consults on leadership, management, and strategy and offers executive coaching. Deeply committed to education and industry development, Gillian lectures integrated marketing communication at UCT and has designed and delivered training programs for numerous institutions and corporates, including through Getsmother and various ed schools. She is also the executive director of the Association of Communication and Advertising, overseeing the prestigious AFI Awards for Marketing Effectiveness in South Africa. As a respected voice in industry, she is widely sought after as a public speaker on marketing effectiveness, strategy and creativity, and integrated communication. I think this is the short version. And I would truly like to appreciate the academic panel for agreeing to be part of the discussion, because they are about to shape curriculum for various institutions. And as we've said, in this venue, we have a number of people coming from different institutions, public and private, and those who are coming from the industry. So whatever they share, it is not to criticize our programs, but it is to help us build better programs for the students. Now, my first question, which will be directed to industry practitioners, would be, from your perspective, what are the most critical skills that marketing graduates are currently missing when entering the workforce? So you can just start there and we'll build from that. We'll start, you already have a mic, Julia?
Yeah, I'm going to let the marketer go first.
Oh, okay. I think when it comes to, can you hear me?
So can you all hear her?
Please on mic.
Could you kindly assist with the mic? I think that's not the proper way to do it. You say 1, 2, 1, 2. Sorry about that. It will be fixed shortly. So while we are busy, I can repeat my question. It says, from your perspective, what are the most critical skills that marketing graduates are currently missing when entering the workforce?
Is this working?
Yes.
Now it's working. Thank you. It's such an interesting question because it actually varies. Also varies by where the students come from. So we do have biases because you pick up trends as you work with different students from different institutions. But I think things that you've seen, the basic one, because you particularly framed and spoke to graduates. One thing I've seen is a lot of times graduates don't know what stream of marketing they even want to be in or what fits for them, which is just a starting point, because we often see, like, I studied marketing, but marketing has got so many streams. There's digital, there's CRM, there's brand and all of that, and sometimes your personality might only be suited or better suited to something else. So I think that's often, like, you know, a starting point in terms of just being aware of what's out there and what it is, which is quite interesting because obviously the courses in school are varied. The second one that we do, you do see is because all the other things, I think institutionally, there's things we teach in terms of, like, there's data, there's AI now, all of these things coming into play and effect. But what I often see is just problem-solving abilities. Because sometimes the challenge is, in institutions, it's a very controlled environment. So it means that if you learn something, if I answer a case study and I use a model, that's correct. But the real world sometimes doesn't work that way. So I think the biggest skill is how are you able to actually problem solve? Because in the real world, unfortunately, things are forever changing. And what you might have learned 5 years ago, it might even change even in 2 years' time, to no fault of everybody. So how do we make sure we teach students to be able to, it's almost like training a brain to be able to solve problems more than anything. Because if you're able to do that, it's easier to adopt, to make that person more adaptable towards the different things that we face on a daily basis. So I think that's something that we see where there's an expectation that, but this is what I learned, so things will go that way. But unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Again?
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think one of the things that I've seen, so I lectured, I was here at UCT for 11 years, and then I also teach quite a few of the art schools and around and about. And one of the things that I see is the students, and I suppose it's age and stage, but it's their inability to see beyond their own worldview. So, everything has to go on Instagram. And I'm like, maybe your audience isn't on Instagram. Have you thought about that? No. So it's kind of just understanding that they need to take themselves out and really develop deep customer understanding, consumer understanding. Probably the biggest issue for me, though, is the lack of the golden thread between commercial objectives and creative execution. So how does it all work together? And then the skills in the creative field. So creativity is now seen as one study Paul Dyson was the second largest lever for growth behind brand size. It is the creative component and the execution of it in the media channels is a huge portion of a marketing budget, and they don't have the skills to go in. You were talking earlier about writing briefs and all of that kind of stuff. You know, they are the ones that are going to need to be writing the briefs. They're going to need to be briefing the agencies. They're going to need to be evaluating the campaigns, selecting the channels, all of that stuff. And I feel like we leave it. We don't teach enough of that. The other thing I just wanted to say was, when you said, was the Prof said, your slides that you've used for 5 years, and you all laughed. And it was quite interesting because I taught until 2018, and then 3 years ago, I think I came in and taught. And I thought, oh, it's fine, I'll just use my old slides. I could not. From 2018 to 2023, things have changed so dramatically. So I think that's a really important fact, but I think the fundamentals don't change, and the fundamentals need to be well taught, because to a certain extent some of the newer shiny toys can be learnt on the job, but the fundamentals still have to be really well taught. And I just think that they need to, and I know they're all busy and they've got lots of projects, but they need to be reading, they need to be listening to podcasts, they need to be up on what's happening in the industry, they need to understand what the big issues are that people are talking about, and a lot of the stuff is freely available, and they've actually got to make time for it. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Just a follow-up on what you've said. What are the specific emerging marketing trends or technologies that academia is not adequately preparing students for? You can be the first one to take it, then it will go back to
obviously AI. I was on a conference yesterday, AI, whatever. It's everywhere. It's going to have a dramatic impact on jobs in this sector. So to the slide about employment and employment opportunities, these graduates are going to have a flipping hard time getting a job. So the reason why is that AI is taking junior jobs. And it's a terrifying thing. So as the ACA, we've just written a white paper. I'm happy to share it with all of you. But our big concern is how do we build a structure that retrains people to keep jobs, because I've heard this saying so many times, I actually want to kind of not say it, but it's you won't lose your job to AI, but you will lose your job to somebody who understands AI. So they must know the tools, they must know how to use them, they must know the downside of them, the ethical side of them, what not to do, not to load your internal company financials into ChatGPT, those sort of things. So they must be well skilled in AI. It is moving at a rate of knots. And it's moving from an advertising point of view and from a marketing point of view. It's taking strategy, it's doing execution, it's doing media planning, it's doing everything, and it's doing it pretty well. So image generation, not quite yet. You still need a human to interface on the strategy side, but that's somebody with experience. So it's a real worry. AI is a real worry, and an opportunity. It's amazing. You know, some of the things it can do is absolutely extraordinary. So that's what everybody was talking about, and also the correlation between, or not correlation, but the relationship between efficiency and effectiveness. So how do you balance that? There's a lot of efficiency through AI, but how does effectiveness come in? And then effectiveness is another big issue that people are talking about. So how do we make sure that whatever we do in marketing is actually effective? And out of that, and I'd also say it's an under-taught area, is what do we measure? And are we measuring the right things? What does effectiveness actually mean? What does it look like? Is it the number of clicks you got on your Facebook post, or is it, you know, something else? How many hamburgers you sold, or what are we actually measuring and what's real? Because data fraud, ad fraud, vanity metrics, all of that stuff is a problem, and it's they call it the lost decade of digital, where honestly anything went and people just made stuff up. We're now coming to the end of that. How do we make sure we do that properly going forward? And my last one, I promise you I won't stop talking, is just marketing, understanding the role of marketing in business and not being apologetic for it. Understanding it's a growth engine, and taking your seat at the table and understanding the value that it brings to business. It's a constant topic in marketing conferences, and I think it's getting better, but it takes work to get the C-suite and the marketing team on the same page.
Thank you so much. But before we move to you, sorry, I just wanted to just follow up on which AI tools are currently used in the industry, particularly in the discipline of marketing, and how are they used? You've mentioned that it can be used for strategy, media planning, and so on.
Yeah.
Which exactly, because we have academics sitting here,
Yeah.
if you can point us to the exact AI tools, and we can start implementing that in our curriculum.
So obviously the big one is ChatGPT. A lot of people are developing their own GPTs. So, but the majority of users will use ChatGPT, and so I'll just release version 5, I think. Gemini is the other one, which is Google. I don't think it's as good. Claude is the other one. There's Microsoft's got Copilot. There's a million of them. For image generation, there's Midjourney. There's what's it called that Google's just launched? Something with a V. Said to my husband, we're just going to be playing charades for the rest of our life. It begins with a V. VO. But Google's just launched VO. It's very good. It's image and it's video. And a lot of the agencies and a lot of marketers are developing their own. So one of the challenges with image generation is that it's very westernized. So it's not, and even language is very westernized, very American. So a lot of the agencies here and some other companies are actually building their own ones that are more representative of South Africa. So from an image point of view, so if you're wanting to, show people faces or whatever, they've actually built their own LLMs. And then there are so many off the shelf that you can buy. There's, I do a lot of education around brief writing because it's a difficult thing for marketers to do. It's a difficult thing for account managers to do. But they're fantastic AI tools like Briefly. And you pop 3 words in or 10 things in and out. It's a brief that is 99% better than anything we can do. So there are a lot of tools available that you can buy, ready-made AI tools, and then there's the others.
Thank you so much. Dr. Tumi, the question was, are there any specific marketing trends or technologies that is not adequately preparing students for?
I wish I could just say it's the students. So I'm gonna just talk about things that we are also adapting to, and that's a challenge. And I think it is also an opportunity, maybe as academics, to develop those things. I think a couple of years ago, maybe a decade ago, we were always hiring these big research agencies to get our data, understand who our customers are. But now with e-commerce, loyalty clubs, all of that, we've got too much data.
Yeah.
So it means that we've got all this abundance of data, and we don't know what to do with it and how to simplify it. So it's not just students. I can tell even the top, business analytics people, we're still struggling and finding ways to do that. So it does become it becomes a superpower. I mean, to a point, I'll tell you now, our whole exec team and senior leaders, we have a digital course that we all go, a data course at UCT in Jan. So UCT must be happy, but it just shows you how important data is becoming in our day-to-day. So if students understand it, even in marketing, it becomes such a superpower. Because you're gonna have to understand your data, you're gonna have to understand your segment, how to segmentation and all of those different things. It's a big thing. I mean, you've touched on AI, And obviously I see obviously advertising agencies, I think they're far ahead because they use it more for creativity. I think within the industry as a brand, for us, it's more about, it makes things quicker. We always say it's like an assistant. So AI is coming up, but obviously the big topic is how do we make sure that, obviously how do we protect our data, how do we develop our own AI platforms. It's so funny again with AI, we had our media agency came presenting this week to talk about the different ways in which AI and what the trends are and what's coming up. So it's also things that a lot of businesses and marketers are preparing themselves for. So I think those are key. And digital, I think it's a non-negotiable now in terms of just having an understanding of digital fundamentals. It's changing the way that we market. So students have to understand it, even if you're not a specialist. If you don't want to be a digital specialist, you still have to have an understanding of the landscapes. Interesting that you touched on things like briefs and stuff like that, because that's what I also have in my mind about just the simple fundamentals. Because with the emergence of this, content or creator economy where we're consuming content more than ever before, it means that even the amount of content we're reviewing is so much more. Because now it's emailers, it's all of that. So marketers, we're constantly reviewing. It's no longer the times we used to review one TV advert every couple of months. So I think, how do we prepare? And I know that obviously in institutions where it's BCom or whatever, we don't focus a lot on creativity because that's things that we usually rely on, your advertising schools and stuff, because those students are specialized in that. But what can we do? Because those students, every single day, they'll be reviewing content. Yeah. You're reviewing a script, you're reviewing design, you're reviewing. So understanding those fundamentals is also becoming key. So even if you're not, even if it's not for you to be able to do it, but understanding what are the right ways to, and the hierarchy in terms of that. Simple things like media, like briefs, as basic as it seems, it's not I don't think, a lot of people don't know how to write briefs. And often we teach people only once they are within that, how to view media plans. It seems basic. A lot of students don't know. I mean, I have an honors graduate who's a mentee of mine who was calling me because she's now a brand manager, and she was seeing a media plan for the first time in her life, and I had to take her through it. So, and it's things that they'll actually be using and looking at every single day. So I do think, it's those things that we have to take into consideration.
Thank you so much. Now I will move to the academics. You can hand over the mic to Stenka. And my question is, could you kindly share examples of innovative teaching method or projects that you guys do, which are aimed at bridging the gaps between academia and industry? Because we are usually aware that there is this gap, and institutions have started executing a number of strategies. Could you kindly share what is it that you are doing, whether in your course or in your department, to close this gap?
So this actually for us at CPUT, and I think we've got a natural advantage being a U of T. It's in our DNA to be closer to industry. We use different pedagogies from Will that was referred to earlier. Service learning is huge. Each department must have at least one service learning project where students learn by delivering or offering a service to industry. And it works really well. Then we also have COIL, Collaborative Online International Learning, where I want to touch on what was said earlier, where we thought we were going to teach students, let's say from Germany or Tanzania and from South Africa, subject content or curriculum. But what happened was that they started understanding the other. And othering is a huge thing in the world today. And they started saying, there was an exercise where they had to record a 1-minute video about a day in their lives, and they shared and said, we're actually more the same than we are different. So we use these pedagogies to open our students' minds to the other industries, locally, internationally, other institutions, and I think that's a huge role that we can play. Those are just a few examples of what we include.
Thank you so much. We can go to Prof. Wade and Cornelis.
Okay.
The other mic.
Is this one working?
Okay, that's now fine.
Okay, so I've got 2 examples that I want to talk about. So TUT knows about this. So at UT we have this project where in personal selling and sales management we require students to work with Avon and Tupperware, all of that, and then they reach a sales target, so it's a non-examinable subject. Then what I've done with this project is I put it on a mobile app. So there's no class time. So I literally don't see my students. So this entire project is facilitated with a mobile app, and this is the one that I won the BC's award for. So in explaining this, I always say to people, think of your mobile app, your banking app. So I talk to the students, I can send them notifications, they get a little dot, and then they know Prof. White to send an announcement. So, say for example, Mary sells lipstick for Avon. Avon's got their codes. They go into the website, they update Mary's sales figure. So Mary goes in and she opens, this thing runs live. So then she sees this mobile app, and I post e-tutorials. So I don't go to class to teach them on this specific thing, how to sell as such. There are e-tutorials that they have to download. They have to download the learner guide. This project, the mobile app counts off the days to the end of the project. This mobile app tells them exactly where you are in your assessment. So I think we, and as my colleague next to me said, as I say in court, my learned colleague. So my learned colleague says, and I like what he said, I think as academics we have to move away from that concept where you think the only way for you to transfer knowledge is by standing in front of the class and teaching, and the only way for you to assess knowledge is by an exam. I think those are outdated. Yes. So what I've done with this project is, as well, I've published on it quite a lot. And I use, for the academics in the audience, I use Bloom's taxonomy, and I tested the retention of knowledge, I tested the understanding, I tested the explaining, I tested it. And it came through winning. So we don't have to stand in front of a class to convey your knowledge. Like I said, I've been running this project for many years. I don't see my students. I know there are 500 students on the app because I can see that. But I don't go to a classroom. There is no scheduled time. There's no time slot for it on the UJ time schedule. So that's how I communicate with my students. If the students got a technical query, there's a button on the app, and they send straight to the techies. And the techies behind the scenes are the students. So they run the source code. So I'm not a source code person, but the development of this app was done with marketing insights, it was done with data insights, it was done with source code developers. So that's one project we run. The other one we're doing is that we're running this with Clover. They actually designed this entire project, and it's done, and it's presented to the student on Clover letterheads and all of that. It's a long story, but the gist of it is that at the end of the year, there's a panel of 7 Clover people who come and sit, and it's very formal. I tell my students, you have to dress up. It's an interview. You form a little group, you're a consultancy, and you have to vie. Your consultancy as to vie for this job. And I tell them, you're not allowed to do a presentation with PowerPoint. You're not allowed to do a visual presentation because PowerPoint is so outdated. And the ideas. We've got students who come in there and they build projects and they use the hammer and the nail and wood and they've created little model thingies and all of that. It was absolutely freaking phenomenal. And here's the thing we've got with Clover. The top winning group gets rewarded with employment.
Oh, wow.
So that is an amazing project. Thank you.
He always does this to me. I told him that I wanted to go first. So I was lucky to join UCT at a point in time when all of us were fresh. It was a whole host of fresh new academics, so we didn't have many legacy systems that were either holding us back but also informing us. So in some points we were blind, and in other points we were just very excited and gung-ho, which worked in our favor in terms of the education project that we get to co-create with the students. So from a division point of view, there were some key things that we did as a division. So for example, every subject that you do has an industry relationship. So there is, your project is based on, you know, somebody from Makura or for Tapi Tapi in Observatory or from whatever it is. So in your course set, you're working with these people. For me specifically, I then take the extra step where I make certificates for my students that these people sign, and I'm like, this is your competency extra. So when they do their CVs, they actually have this extra thing of, and consulted for Tapi Tapi, as this extra thing. So it's not just this project where these companies come in and extract from the students also then leave with something tangible that becomes the differentiation in the space, for example. So these are some of the steps that we had taken to be more deliberate, but from a personal teaching level, there is the course content and the things that I need to cover, but my lecture experience is a little bit different. So when I start my lecture series, I begin with something I call Around the World or Around Your World. And we spend 5, 10, whatever minutes talking about what's happening in the world. And it sounds silly. When I started, the students were like, oh, well, the news is so depressing, so like, I don't have anything to say. And I was like, okay, cool, tell me about Around Your World. And this, then, whenever it's PSL weekend or EPL weekend, it is the worst weekend. All of my soccer heads are in my space. But this has allowed us to have conversations ranging from government policies to the WNBA to whatever it is. And in the first 2 or 3 weeks, it might seem like, okay, why are we doing this in class? But for us in digital marketing this week, our first week was Sydney Sweeney and the Jeans campaign. And in the weeks that have followed, we have now had conversations about rage-bait marketing. We have then seen ALF do the response and why rage worked for Sydney Sweeney with invested groups but didn't work for ALF because men aren't buying makeup. And then these conversations become, okay, what's Sydney Sweeney's rebrand now? And as marketers, we're now looking at this as digital marketers, like, oh, she's wearing, you know, tops up to her neck now. And what was the response? Oh, look at that, now Cat's Eye has just won a VMA and the song is, you know, part of the, and now there's this entire conversation that just started from these 5-10 minutes that started at the beginning of the Around Your World. So my students are now no longer just, okay, cool, this is the content that we have, but this is what it looks like in real life when we unpack it. It's also interesting because they get so heated and I'm like, okay, cute, but you are in a digital marketing class, what does this mean for us as an industry? And I have a rule which is, I don't need you to think like me, I just need you to question why you think like you. And if I can have curious, questioning students, whoever they turn out to be, that is the benefit for me in the teaching experience.
Thank you so much. While you still have the mic, one of the skills that the industry is finding lacking from our students is problem solving. Maybe you can touch base on how we ensure that we build that skill outside what we normally teach from our courses. What do we do to ensure that we develop that skill so that when students get into the industry, they already have that?
So I believe in the theory of convince me and you can. Whatever it is that my students present to me, even if it's, okay, I need you guys to do a group project, I'm thinking about this number, these are the constraints that I have, convince me and you can. It's the smallest things, but they're always engaging in the existence of, it's not just I am this preacher at my pulpit and you exist as some passive audience. We are co-creating the space, but it needs to make sense. And I'm happy to concede, which was humbling and has been at points in time, but I've also understood that I'm not the only arbiter of knowledge. So if we're all sharing in this space, that's great. But I also sit in classes where I have students who, because of the unemployment rates, have come back to study. So they come from different disciplines, they come from different industries. And with the kind of class environment that we have, now we have these conversations to be like, okay, ma'am, I hear you. However, my lived experience looks like this. And I account for that yes, this knowledge system that I'm trained in is important, but there are other knowledges that can come into play, and these are the ways in which these people have unpacked or experienced or, you know, responded to.
Brilliant. And while you still have the mic, and answering how to develop these problem-solving skills. You made a comment about not only using exams to assess knowledge. If you can briefly touch on what other method you guys are using at the University of Johannesburg to assess knowledge, I would be grateful.
Okay, so the first one is that I've got this project where students have to reach a sales target, but what you do is you build in milestones along the way. So ultimately, for first year students have to sell for 5,000 Rand. But I must also tell you that the commission they make on these Avon sales are their own. So they typically get 20% commission. So if a lipstick costs 100 Rand, they only pay 80 Rand into Avon's account, 20 Rand they keep for themselves. And I must tell you this story. I had the student last year. She says, Prof, wait, this project is so amazing. I went the other day to Sandton and I saw these killer heels in the shop. And I just knew I need to go and make more sales so I can come and buy those killer heels. I said, I've achieved my success. So that's one thing. So you build in benchmarks. So what I say is if you reach so much by the end of June, you get a bonus mark. If you get so much by the end of August, you get a bonus mark. So, but ultimately it is to reach their sales target. So it is to reach a sales target because ultimately if you're in a business, you've got a monthly target. You have to reach a target. So that's what we do. So that's non-examinable. And then the other way we do is by presentations, where you get industry collaboration and make your panel big, like this. Get industry in to come and sit and assess your students. Yeah, those are the two ones that I'm using. But what was my question, sorry? What was
the question was, one of the key skills that the industry finds lacking from our students is problem solving.
Okay, so that is actually a very difficult one just to transfer in a classroom environment because it's very theoretical. And as you said, is that we get case studies, and case studies are brilliant, yes and no, because they're very theoretical and they're based on a model and it's very theoretical textbook application questions. Okay, so if I want to problem solve a solution, I would get industry in. I really would get industry in. I would tell industry, come to my class and bring your problem with, and therefore engage in the students like that. Like this Clover project, we have, for example, one of the things is Botswana is not selling Clover products. How would you rectify the problem? Like that. So I think those typically problem-solving solutions must come from industry because we are living in our own heads. It's very theoretical.
Thank you for that. Yes, Dr. Spencer. The question is how do you ensure that you develop the problem-solving skills in your students?
I think there's something we can look at because we start with, in a subject, for an assignment, assessment, we have to identify a problem. And they then run with that to do their assignments according to that. We don't have a laboratory where they can find any problem or the real problem or the biggest problem and then they solve for that. We start by identifying and giving them a problem. So that's something that we need to think about a lot more. What we have done, however, was that we, within a subject, this is strategic brand management, we say, every year we say to the students at the beginning, so within this subject, what do we want to do this year? And this year they came up and said that entrepreneurship is very important, and we are all underdogs. How do we try and help ourselves and other underdogs to succeed? And we started with that. They then did the research to go look at, are there models and frameworks and guidance specific for underdogs to build brands and to market them. So we started with that, not with a textbook. They developed their own theory, and we put it all together for the class. So this is our theoretical foundation, and then they built their own brands based on that. That's the closest I think we got to that, but actually we start by identifying a problem and we run with that.
Thank you so much for that. In our discussion, I said it will be important to also give the floor an opportunity to share their insights or to even ask questions. I just wanted to add to what my colleague has said. So one of the things we have done to ensure that we develop this problem-solving skill in our students, we introduced something called the life brief. I didn't know about that until my former boss over there, Ms. Cynthia Whitehead, showed me what that is, because I've worked for an advertising school before. At a traditional university, we never had something called a life brief. So at UCT, for all our N2F level 8 qualifications, in our assessment, we have a life brief in every course. This means we approach companies, they bring problems to our students work on solving the problems of those companies. These are practical problems. They will then present the solutions to the company. And as a result, some of the students we've had who went through this process have been absorbed by those companies, which to us is very interesting because we don't know what the challenges these companies are facing. So I would like to have a mic moving around. If you have any question or you would like to share anything, this is the platform.
Can I just add one thing on the problem solving? I think, to Lee's point, there aren't always absolute rights in this subject when you get into the real world. And I think I started noticing as I was, in my lecturing that the students were asking for more and more certainty in rubrics and things. And I remember my one student, because I'm not very good at rubrics, and my one student said, well, this rubric is nearly as good as the other one we got from the other lecturer. And I said, oh, could you show it to me then? And she sent it to me, and I was like, well, basically he's given you the test. So I'm not doing that. And I think that, and I love what you say, convince me you can, because I think my view always in marketing was, if you can make a good argument for it, then I'm gonna listen to your argument on the market accordingly, because it isn't necessarily always going to be that one thing. And that's, I think, what a lot of the problem solving is. What do you do on the ground when the thing that you thought you were going to use isn't available, or the budget you had is now gone, or whatever? It's that kind of problem solving. Like, how do you do things differently?
Yeah. Thank you so much.
So I'm just looking at some data which I found over the weekend already related to Fortune 500 companies where executive teams, there are 58% representativity in terms of marketing heads sitting on these companies. That's an alarming statistic. I think the CMO's role, their voice is fading at the table. What are we doing about it? Why don't marketing executives have a voice? We used to be the rock stars. The spotlight is now shifting, I think, to supply chain executives. It's a problem. We need to change that narrative. And then, interestingly enough, 55% of women are heading up the Fortune 500 companies in executive marketing head positions. So the landscape is changing. I think it's excellent on the one hand. And I think, where are the guys going? Are they going into supply chain? So just that's just my comment, and I think the discussion was excellent. Thanks.
It's a challenge to all of us because we look at the economy, we can see all the challenges that we're facing. I think ultimately the reason that's happening is because when companies are under pressure, they want to see results now, and short-term results. They want all of that instant gratification. And I think our role as marketers is we have to show the value. In terms of, because sometimes it's difficult, where often that happens where, we do a lot of teaching because again, everyone thinks they're a marketer, that's our reality. So we have to show, how all the things we're doing are delivering results. And often I see that in instances where people are not able to justify, as marketers. Also the other problem is we've got a lot of marketers who are not marketers, which is why also again we do need students to start onboarding them in the system, because there is something great about the foundations that we teach students in institutions, but in a lot of organizations, everywhere I've worked, I've never worked with more than 50% of marketers having 4 marketing qualifications. So I do think, and I see when sales are down,
that's what starts happening. And again, it's how do we then start showing value for the things that we're doing. So yeah, but great comments.
Yeah, I think there are two issues. One is short-termism versus long-termism. I think the quarter writers, the need to report quarterly results, and the need for immediate ROI, or however you want to measure it, or leads or sales or whatever in this quarter. So I think that's a broader marketing education job into the business. And there's a lot of research that's coming out that's actually helping that now. And I think the bigger issue is that from a few years ago, CMOs started changing their names. They were chief growth officers, they were other things, and what is actually a chief growth officer? Then maybe that's the CIO, or maybe that's actually the head of sales, or maybe so. Then that job description became a bit murky. Who was actually the main person or title driving growth in the business? And the marketer actually lost touch with the customer, because the customer then was owned by the head of data, for example. So I still believe that figure is actually quite good, because it was worse. But I still believe that marketers need to be unapologetic about their role in growth, and take that back. So, but it's about educating the business.
Thank you so much. We'll take the last panelist, then we'll move on to the second question.
I think that's a very good discussion point that you opened up, and I can maybe contribute that. To be quite frank, that most marketers do not know what they're doing. This is why they don't deserve a spot at the table, at the executive table. For a fact, 74% of all marketers in the world do not have a formal marketing qualification. Imagine in law, imagine in accounting this being the case. Marketers watch YouTube tonight, and tomorrow they try and introduce it in their companies. They are working on bits and pieces and fads, and the industry is the Wild West out there. No wonder the executive team doesn't want to market their around to kick tires. We need to deserve our place at the table. We need to be professional, and there are professionals. But I repeat, 74% of marketers in the world do not have a formal qualification. That's where it is at.
Thank you so much. We have a question.
Separate the social contact of students. They were craving physical contact, they loved social interaction. My question post-COVID, and this is perhaps to industry but more to our academic team here and the audience as well, is my biggest question is, are we preparing graduates with the ability to problem solve in retaining and gaining knowledge and experience and information? Are our assessment methods and our pedagogies focused and changed and adjusted to a new brain that is multi-screen, that is very fleeting, very instant gratification focused? To put it, a student, and I say a child, it's not say it's a child, but a first year student, NQF5, come out of the schooling, it's blended learning. A lot of people are talking about hybrid learning, half online, half contact. I've noticed on our campuses that we're 100% contact, and believe me, classroom, nothing replaces a classroom. Okay, online teaching for this generation. But my question is really, are we assessing these kids correctly? To put a child into a 3-hour exam and to test their ability to retain knowledge, and I think this is where the question is, I spent some time with a creative institution that has scrapped all tests and exams. They do not do written tests and exams. They only do formative and summative assessments the same way that all traditional places do. But the perception is that, particularly in the Department of Higher Education and CHE, won't accept a non-written test or exam. And I think I spent some time with higher education principals, guys in private high schools and public high schools, and they put pressure on the Department of Education to try and scrap tests and exams, because it's in fact, children, particularly grade 12s at this stage, are spending more time trying to study than to enjoy the experience. And I think if we bring the enjoyment back into education, enjoyment, for example, Prof. Waits, I think your idea in terms of, we work with mobile apps, we have a mobile app that we integrate. The fact that the students are actually running the mobile app is just brilliant and genius, and I'm stealing it and running it. Is I do think that we need to bring the enjoyment of learning. It's the touchy-feely experiencing, and I think it's comes from us putting pressure on each other to change the way we do things, to change traditions. And I think there are going to be two thoughts. I see Prof. Steckhoff looking and going, I'm not sure. You either said no or yes, and I like your opinions on should we be scrapping tests and exams and just purely going for something different to bring the enjoyment of education and play and exploration within the fields to bring alive, and in doing so, bridging that gap in soft skills.
I personally think that the time for standing in front of the class and lecturing and doing a 3-hour exam is outdated. I've actually written, I read an article the other day of a lecturer who done research on online versus face-to-face teaching. Online retention is nothing. So they asked the students to rehash the knowledge on an online course, and they couldn't. Then they did a comparative analysis and they did the 3-hour exam, and there was more retention. But you lose that retention. So I actually did a paper, and there's another assessment method. We love simulation games at UJ. So we do 2 days of simulation games, and this is also popping up. There are lots of consultancies that do, and they actually design a game for you. So in our retail course, students come in, and they actually have to do from setting up to your whole retail environment to the end, and you compete with your class. So that's an assessment method. There's no exam. So they do the assessment. And what we did is me and the girl, the lecturer who ran the assessment, we called those students back after 2 years, and we tested the retention, and they retained the knowledge on that practical assessment. More so than the 3-hour exam.
Oh, that's brilliant.
May I add, from my perspective, is that I have clearly many rules, and it is, I can either tell you what to do or how to do it. It's how I frame my assessments. So if I say this is the space for it, I need you to present it to me by this date. Yes, we have a platform to put it up, but if you want to do a presentation, that's fine. If you want to create a website, that's fine. If you're going to do a lecture series and you're going to record yourself in Snape TS2C, that's fine. And giving the students a carte blanche to give you back the information that you want in the medium that they're most fluent in has improved marks dramatically, but also on anti-exam as well. So there was a conversation earlier that Prof said about having things with credits. So for our digital marketing course, they are actually getting the Google Analytics credits as part of the core competency of this course. So they don't just mean having done digital marketing at UCT, but then they have the internationally acknowledged accreditation in analytics. So that's just doing it in a different way, but also, you know, that 3 hours can happen the day before you get married or the day before you get married. So spending 12 weeks with a student only for them to have 3 hours to maybe perhaps tell me something that they may not have remembered in this one particular way, which is not the real version of events of how it's going to look after. I am in deep agreement with my learner colleague.
Thank you so much. We have limited time, so I'm going to take 3 people. It will first be Prof. Lombard, then Dr. Williams, and there's a hand over there. That will be the last. Sorry. Yeah, so that will be the last comment.
Yeah, I'm going to be quick. Just one or 2 or 3 things. I think firstly, an organization like MASA, I have this feeling that what is being done here today, in terms of the African Marketing Association conference, is to have some representation that could link up with MASA, where greater involvement of a national marketing association could strengthen positioning around what Dr. Steenkamp was saying, the concerns. It's all in numbers, so think about something like that. Enrico Duplessis from MASA is always willing to engage, so I don't know if there is a chairman or somebody taking leadership, but that could be a good call. Secondly, I think industry, maybe through the advisory board, should also remember one thing. It's very quick to criticize and say you don't train students to our needs. But when you reach out for involvement, the lack of willingness to get involved is what's hampering academic ability to address those needs and deliver those students. So there should also maybe through a forum like this or in alignment with MASA, some form of grouping that could meet up with stronger voice and volume. And then thirdly, when I stand in front of my first year students, or my third year students, or my honours, I always open up my lecture on the first day to say, give a big hand of applause to yourself. I can see the confusion on their face. And then I tell them that you are the most important part of any company that you will be working for. Because if they don't have marketers, they have no reason to exist. And that pride that you install in them, they carry through into the workplace because they believe in their value. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I answer that?
30 seconds.
Okay.
Problem solving, I think that AI presents another problem in how to instill students to problem solve. Because if I have a problem, I have to AI solve it for me. So that's just another layer to having to teach problem solving. Should we have this or not? I think it's not a simple yes or no. Because it needs to be, the assessment needs to be fit for purpose. So the simulation may not be necessarily fit for purpose in a specific subject, and also if you think of the outcome, and therefore it cannot be a yes or no answer. I think test more and test when it's needed, and then we will take other assessments also. I just want to ask industry also, you've identified the gaps in our makeup. Students can't problem solve, possibly critically think, and we've heard that and we're putting measures in place too. And I just want to know from industry, what are your challenges? Because we can feed into that and maybe use that also as a way to differentiate our program. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Before we can respond to that question, let me take the last comment. Then after you have responded to that question, we go for lunch. That's what we're doing. Yes, that's the question. Yes.
Thank you. Dr. Lena van Wyk from AMAC Graduate School, and it's nice to see alumni on the panel there. So Dr. Boitumela, it's nice seeing you that our students are really making a way ahead in industry. Just some comments. I think that it's very important to remember and try to recognize the African Marketing Confederation. I know we're looking at the South African Marketing Federation, but I do think that we're looking at our footprint within the continent. And so I really would like to urge you to try and join and have a look at the African Marketing Confederation. Then just as far as alternative assessments are concerned, I do think that, yes, in the private sector, we do things a little bit differently. And Prof. Wade, it's good to hear that you guys are doing simulations. At the AMAC Graduate School, we've been doing that for a very long time. As well as we have done away with exams. We are only focusing on open book exams, and we do project-based examination, and then the simulations, case studies. So there's quite a number of different uploads that we are doing. Yeah, and then I just do think that it's wonderful to hear the wonderful industry-connected projects that you guys are doing. I think that's something that we can really expand on. So thank you.
Thank you, and I did apologize for
both at the same time, because Prof earlier mentioned the fact that industry is not interested in participating already. Sometimes it's hard. Then of course you ask, what are the needs? I actually have a different perspective, because what I've often seen is we do participate. Everyone on this panel has a live brief for all your institutions, UCT, UJ, CPUT. So we do want to. I think that the need and the desire is there. What I've noticed is it's quite hard. So a lot of times, how do we formalize it and make it a bit more structured? Often what happens is it's very ad hoc. Hey, I need something for my students, I need all of that. If I knew in Jan that in June I have to do this and then September again I have to do this, trust me, people will be more willing to participate. But it's busy. And I find that it's very busy. In terms of our needs, interestingly enough, I know that in institutions they always say they want their students to also get a real work-life experience. But the challenge that often happens is we want people, trust me. We always say we want interns, but sometimes the reality is we don't have big budgets for, graduate programs. We have capexes, so you can only have 2, right? But we also do need hands-on going, and students need experience. Where the challenge comes in is, again, people are so busy that it's an investment to teach, and sometimes it feels like the time to teach, you're teaching a student, and then it's disheartening because the problem is the person is going to leave. So there's that gap. So if there was somehow to fill that where we could make the incubation easier. So I always find like how do we make it easy for industry to bring in, industry, we want to bring in students, but the challenge is always, it's going to take me 3 months to get them up to speed, then they have to go. That's one challenge. And then, but at the same time, I know that we say, you want, industry to do, trust me, we can do it. I think it's just about how we structure it. And even in these industry, for example, like the CPUT, I just joined the advisory committee. But I always say we have to treat it like, the only thing I can say is a business plan. To say, what are we doing and what must people do? And if we do it that way, we will be able to get the output because there is interest. And even as marketers, they constantly speak about the gaps and all of that. It's just about us structuring the systems, and I think we'll get it right.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think I'm also going to answer both your questions. I don't think there's any willingness to help, but I think it is, the relentlessness of this career is quite something from a time point of view. So kind of really understanding that and working with that, but also what can you offer to marketers and to businesses that they need and can't do themselves, and a lot of it is research. So one of the pressing, a friend of mine is a professor in consumer behavior in the Netherlands, and he works for one of the universities. They've got a unit which partners with business to say, what are your burning issues and how can we help provide you with research? If your students do that kind of work, they're immediately working on real world problems and providing real value to the marketers and the businesses who can't do it themselves. So I think that's a brilliant way of doing it. And in terms of the challenges, I think a lot of the challenges are just survival. Times are tough, the economy's tough, everybody's scrambling. AI is going to change a lot of remuneration issues. How does the new agency actually charge for itself? Already businesses are asking agencies to reduce their fees by 40% because they're going to save 40% time, but actually there's still time up front in the AI generation and all of that stuff. So the biggest challenge is talent and bringing people into the industry because it's a hard industry. It's great fun, and I've loved every single minute of it, all my ideas in it. But it's hard. So, and there are lots of shiny things that you can go and work in. So we collectively need your students desperately. And we need really good, passionate students that are curious and love the industry and want to stay in the industry. So if we can kind of find a way of working with you to give them real life experience, to make them more employable, so that we can get better students, win-win.
Thank you so much. I can tell we are very passionate about this topic, and it might take or it might need more minutes or hours to discuss. I want to thank everyone for sitting in and listening to the presentation and the discussions, and a special thanks to our panel. I'm truly grateful for the time you have dedicated to this section and the insights you have shared. I would like us to just give them a round of applause. That is it for us. Thank you so much. Thank you.